People with high pattern recognition tend to isolate themselves. You enter a relaxed gathering. Everyone is smiling, no one is arguing, and the conversation sounds friendly. And yet you immediately sense something is wrong here. One person says something kind, but their voice sounds tense. Someone holds eye contact a moment too long. Another person laughs, even though their body remains stiff. You cannot yet explain what is bothering you. You only notice that more is happening than is openly being shown. Weeks later, the conflict actually breaks out. But no one asks you how you were able to notice it so early. Instead, your perception itself suddenly becomes the problem. And this is exactly where the real puzzle begins. Why does an ability that sounds like a social advantage so often lead not to greater closeness, but to exhaustion, rejection, and eventually isolation? Someone answers a simple question, but the pause before it lasts half a second too long. You do not only hear what someone says, you also notice how it is said, what is left out, and whether the behavior matches what you have seen from them before. Often, you notice several of these signals at the same time without being able to immediately explain what they mean. At lunch, a colleague talks about his promotion. Everyone is happy for him. Still, his story sounds too smooth, almost rehearsed. Only later do you realize he never said who made the decision. The feeling comes first. The explanation follows later, if at all. If you speak about what you perceive, you quickly seem suspicious. If you stay silent, you have to pretend that you see the situation as simply as everyone else does. People want to be seen, but usually only in the way they want to present themselves. If you notice contradictions or a hidden motive, your perception can become uncomfortable. You are sitting at the kitchen table with a friend. She tells you about her new relationship and waits for you to confirm how well everything is going. You do not disagree. You only ask what her partner said when she told him that she was unhappy. She stays silent a moment too long. Then she says, "You always have to find something that is wrong." After that, she calls less often. Suddenly, you are considered too critical. Your caution is interpreted as coldness. Suddenly, you are the problem because you notice something. Maybe you were even right, but being right does not automatically mean that the other person is ready to hear it. In a group, this effect becomes even stronger. There, it is not only one person's self-image that is at stake, but the order everyone has silently agreed upon. This also includes unspoken rules about what no one is allowed to mention. You are sitting at a family dinner. Two people have deliberately been seated far apart. No one mentions the wedding 2 years ago, which has not been spoken about since. So you ask, are we ever actually going to talk about that day? The table goes silent. Then someone says, "Why do you always have to bring something like that up again?" Suddenly, it is no longer about what happened within the family. It is about you. You are negative. You are difficult. You cannot let things rest. The group seemed stable as long as everyone avoided the same subject. The moment you speak the pattern out loud, you yourself become the disruption. Honesty does not bring you clarity here. It can push you out of the group. But the next break no longer happens between you and the others. It begins when you not only notice their tension, but carry it around with you. You leave a room and still carry its tension with you. At some point, you no longer know. Was this tension really theirs? Or had part of it already become your own? The boundary between observing and empathizing begins to blur. Because you often recognize early where something is heading, simply watching becomes difficult. You warn others, intervene, and try to prevent an ending that you can already see coming. Slowly, every relationship becomes something you have to observe, assess, and control. And often enough, you are actually right. Your warning proves correct. With every confirmation, something shifts. I noticed something becomes, I am the one who notices things like this. Pattern recognition is then no longer just an ability. It becomes part of your identity. Once that happens, being wrong no longer feels like an ordinary mistake. When someone questions your perception, you are suddenly no longer defending only your assessment. You are defending the image you have built of yourself. And this image was also shaped by earlier experiences, by the betrayal you did not see coming, or by a person you were afraid of who actually turned out to be dangerous. A similar voice, pause, or look can trigger the same warning again years later. Then similarity quickly becomes proof, caution becomes distrust, and at some point, the feeling that you see more than others can turn into the conviction that others perceive the world less clearly than you do. This is exactly where the ability can turn against you. You no longer recognize only new patterns. You begin searching for confirmation of the patterns you already know. You read your own expectations into what you see and mistake them for perception. You meet someone for the first time. You are sitting at a table by the window, 2 cups of coffee between you. You have known each other for only 10 minutes. She takes off her coat and explains why she was late. But while she is speaking, you have already begun to categorize her. Her smile seems a moment too quick. The first compliment comes almost immediately. Her gaze briefly moves to the door and back. She seems friendly and very eager to be liked. And already a pattern forms in your mind. She flatters people to create closeness quickly. From that moment on, you test every further gesture against this assessment. Her slightly too bright laugh seems performed. A friendly question about your week no longer seems like genuine interest, but like a tactical move. Even when she nervously turns her cup, it seems to fit. Slowly, it is no longer simply a new person sitting across from you. You believe you already know who you are dealing with. And that is exactly what feels safe. Because someone you believe you understand has a harder time surprising you. Then something happens that does not fit the pattern. She puts down her cup and asks you something without flattering you, without wanting anything from you, without any recognizable hidden motive. It is exactly the kind of question that does not fit your previous assessment. For a moment, your image of her begins to waver, but instead of reassessing your judgment, you treat this detail as an exception, because the pattern in your mind has now become easier to understand than the person in front of you. And this is exactly where it becomes clear what else pattern recognition can do without you noticing. If you believe you can completely predict a person, you automatically keep them at a distance. What you have already explained can surprise you less. It can hurt you less. That is why the distance does not feel like loss. It feels like safety. At this point, pattern recognition has become control. But control and genuine closeness contradict each other. The more strongly you try to make a person predictable, the less room you leave for them to be something you do not yet know. In this way, you can become very good at assessing people while becoming increasingly difficult for them to reach. Because the same distance that is meant to protect you from manipulation also keeps away the encounters that could contradict your previous experiences. If you leave early enough, before someone can surprise you, you never get the proof that your first assessment was wrong, and that is exactly what makes it even stronger with the next person. The real problem, then, is not that you overlook a pattern. It is the opposite. Someone truly new is sitting in front of you, a person who does not fit your previous experiences. But your mind searches for the closest familiar form and places them there anyway. Maybe the woman at the table did not belong at all to the type of person you saw in her. Maybe that one question that did not fit your pattern was the most important clue of all, but that was exactly the detail you dismissed as meaningless. And in the end, one uncomfortable question remains. If every new person eventually reminds you of someone from your past, how do you recognize the moment when you actually meet someone who is different?